Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Goosebumps HorrorTown, as we are about to go ahead and talk about the 11th... I know what you're thinking. I should be talking about the Squeezer Revolution that just passed because, well, I just finished with the Halloween update, then going to this, but, no. Instead, I'm going to be talking about this next update coming up in Christmas because, well, there's something interesting about this one, and something I need to tell you about. Do you remember in my previous updates, I've mentioned that I've been working on a secret project? Well, allow me to tell you what that is. You see, back in October, I was contacted by someone at Pixowl. Oh yes, I got contact. They've been watching me. A lot. And they basically got in contact with somebody there who represents them. And they gave me something of an interesting proposal and an opportunity that I never even thought was possible. But he told me a little bit about why this was the case, and I figured I might as well help him out in a hand. And in the process of it, I actually got to learn a little bit more about with the company and how these things get done. So, what exactly did I help him with? Well, I'm going to put it as what they've said I can. I was a content creator for this next Christmas update coming up this year. In fact, you can clearly say that this event was designed by me.
Surprise!
Now you might be saying to yourself, Grim, you're full of it. There's no way you actually been able to make this update. There's none. You're lying. And, well, I can't say I don't doubt you. I mean, this is the internet. Anything can happen. I can say anything, and there's no proof otherwise. But there is one difference with this, and that is I have some things here that will be of interest to you. In fact, to the point that I ended up getting an interesting look at this update being formed. And for the most part, when I designed this, it was interesting enough to kind of go ahead with. So allow me to kind of tell you how this whole thing happened, briefly. So what they told me is, if you noticed, that this company has been doing more than 4 games now. There's Snoopy's Town Tales, there's the main 4 that's popular, Snoopy, Wonder Park, this game, and the recently new Addams Family. Now, that's a lot of games. Plus, you also have to imagine that there's another group that's actually doing a sandbox game, which is a beast within its entire self, based on the Sandbox Evolution game that was on mobile and Steam and all that stuff. So you can tell that these company had a lot of stuff to do. Unfortunately, at the time, they didn't have much of a, enough people to kind of phone by this. So if you're wondering why the updates seem to be kind of small, that is why. They wanted to keep an update kind of more consistent and more fluent without actually breaking bank, as they would refer to it as. One thing of interest to note, though, during this whole discussion, is I ended up finding out a little bit more of what happened during the other updates. From what I understand, there was a previous game designer in the works that he was actually on this project. Now, for reasons I do not know, he ended up not being in this project anymore. He actually sometime, from what I understand, left the project in June. So you might say that their last update was that of the Welcome to Camp Nightmare because that was in the same time. But you'd be wrong. Because how this game works is that they design things ahead of time, and you would likely to know that I believe the last update he was kind of involved with was the one with Mr. Wood, which is probably why there seems to be a lack of communication, content, and stuff like that due to that situation. So let's talk about what happened afterwards. Well, from there they were basically left without a designer. So they decided to try to get somebody. Now, they had someone in mind and decided to have them be lead in the project. Unfortunately, that's what happened with these two updates. Yeah, they, unfortunately, yeah. So from there, that would probably explain why the update between after June seemed to have this weird kind of mismanagement. And I think it explains more now because I'm hearing stuff behind the scenes where this whole thing was just getting bigger and less people on there, and then their key person left. So now they had basically nothing to work with. Now, luckily speaking, they actually did have some stuff ahead of time. They already had a Halloween project already on the work, so they were going to run with it. They made some minor tweaks in order to actually make amends to the last two updates we had. And then there was the recently passed Squeezers update, which, believe it or not, was actually supposed to be, from what I understand, done in September. In fact, that's why the one there was short, because it was going to go into this one that would lead into Halloween. So, but, you know, with all discretions, it just happened like that. But this is what they tell me. And this is when they gave me the proposal. They've seen my works on these videos and my ideas and stuff within the community, and they basically reached out to me and said to me in October, of all things, said, "Look, Grim, we were wondering if you'd be interested in helping us design an update, more specifically for Christmas." And I was like, sure, why not? So I ended up doing such a thing. There's usually 3 documents to this. There is the economy, there is the art references, and then there's the actual story plot. Now, after working with this person, with this representative, they ended up like going back and forth, and we ended up coming into this conclusion, and I finished it up. I gave it to them on the 15th, whatever I did, and they seemed to love it. In fact, from what I saw during the weeks to come, they've only made minor changes and some changing around, but most, if not what I proposed to them, was in the game. I missed some things, though, which I will point out during this playthrough of this update in particular, but if anything, this has seemed more interesting. Now, you might be asking, why exactly did I do this? Well, one is because I'm obsessed with this game for some reason. Yeah, I have a problem, I know that. But the other reason why I decided to do it was because this would give an interesting opportunity of how games are designed. After experiencing doing this, I ended up having more appreciation for the team's work ethic and how everything got done. Because most people don't really think about the people in the back and what they do and what their jobs entail. And after being in one of the front end and one of the actual being able to design something, it is surreal. Now, I just want to point this out. I am not hired by Pixowl, and I am not I did not work on everything with this update. All I simply I'm a blueprinter. Like, I designed the blueprint, I gave it to the builders, and then they built the idea of whatever I gave it to them. And then from there, they've made this thing that you are about to watch here. Now, this is where the interesting part comes in. You see, during this time, there was also some ideas being thrown around. Now, you might be suspected to say, and it's because of this reason that this update is going to be interesting and awkward at the same time, because of this conflict of interest. Because of this, now there is some doubt within the viewing audience, and rightfully so. Because I had involvement within this update in particular, there might be a good bias against it. I will try not to do so. In fact, I was thinking of not doing a review at all, but I was encouraged to still do something of it. So what I'd like for you, dying viewers watching the comments here, to please input your suggestions or your grievances down below. This will help me greatly when it comes to reviewing the thing, because at least I'll be able to add your input into the game. Because again, the way I like doing these reviews is so that the team, I guess the team watches them and looks at them and say, oh, this is what we did right, this is what we did wrong, we're not going to do that no more. So that is the thing there. Now, I think I talked long enough, but yeah, that's an interesting opportunity. So this update you're about to watch, I made this. Yeah, it's very interesting too. So let's talk about what this is. During the end of the event that we're currently in, the Squeezers, there was a post that was posted onto their Facebook page that read as followed. Are you excited or worried about next Christmas in HorrorTown?
Rumor has it Mayor has the thrilling plans for holidays. Fun for all family.
Now, fun for the whole family. That's interesting. So, what exactly did Grimmy here made for you, young viewers? I know. He used the 12 Screams of Christmas, right? No. In fact, I didn't do that at all. In fact, I did something even more creative. I decided to use something completely different that had nothing to do with Christmas, except for something else entirely. In fact, you might even say, why exactly did I choose this in particular? So, what is this update? Well, here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you this year's Christmas update entitled Shop Till You Drop Dead.
Dead?
And you might be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, that's not a Christmas book. I mean, look at the title. It has nothing to do with Christmas. Ah, but that's where you're wrong, dear viewers. You see, you might be curious on why I decided to choose this of all things. Well, mostly it's because of the story involved. You see, last year's Christmas update, a brief mention, was the attack of the Christmas presents. That involved a thing called more Tales to Give You Goosebumps, in which, within that story, the villain there was Santa and Slappy, who basically turned presents into attacking everybody, and the gifts that people get randomly had something to do with the story. So, although not all the stories were included, but most of them were, and it kind of led into this kind of group-oriented thing. And that was interesting, and I wanted to do something like that in particular too, and I had this great idea of what if we take this book and turn it into a Christmas update because of one particular thing that comes to mind. Black Friday. If you've never heard of this infamous holiday of sorts, it's basically the time after Thanksgiving in the United States where places and deals will sell their things for ridiculously low prices. A good example of this is what happened just recently during Black Friday for this game, where they offered the starter pack for literally 99 cents, or one measly dollar. But for me, it was one measly toonie. But still, that's a markdown low, because they also gave you the bank itself, which is like, ooh, dog, that's a lot. That's great value. See, that they know how to do the holiday justice, right? Nowadays, it's worthless, but I want to meant like Black Friday, but regardless. So, before we talk about this update in particular and what I designed it for and why that was the case, let's talk about what this book is based off of. The book is based off the same name, Stop Till You Drop Dead, and it depicts this bizarre monster thing, and this is what the story is roughly about. So before we go into the content update, let's talk about this book in particular, Shop Till You Drop Dead. It is number 25. Very, very convincing there. Like, very convenient for this kind of case. Haha, Christmas is on the 25th, man. Oh, look, I made them all connect. It's conspiracy theory confirmed. But no, that was just convenience of it. But yeah, in the picture you might see that this was this weird, hairy purple monster carrying shopping bags with Mayfield Bazaar on them, and it looks like it's riding down on an escalator. And of course, it was made by Craig White. What's interesting about this is that during this time, he actually designed the cover originally with these mannequins that I'm showing you right on the screen here. But at the end of the day, he decided to go with this monster because, and I'm going to spoil what this is. But anyways, here's the blurb of what this story is about. Midnight Monster Sale. You're sick of Reggie Mayfield's tall tales, especially one of his dad's department stores. Reggie said monsters roam the store late at night. You bet Reggie's lying. So you agree to spend the midnight at Mayfield's. Too bad for you, Reggie is telling the truth. Monsters do roam the store, like vampire night guards and the mannequin that comes to life. Watch out, he's dressed to kill. Can you survive the midnight hour at Mayfield's? The choice is yours, a scary book from adventures, packed with blah 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 blah. You get the picture. Now, what's interesting about that is this kind of gave me open leeway to what I was going to design here. So, I mentioned last year Santa was the main villain. Well, this year the villain is Krampus. Okay, a Krampus monster. Yes, I have turned this weird beast that you see before you into a Krampus monster, and wouldn't you know it, this purple beast is supposed to be Reggie in the story himself. I'll go more into details on the influence there in the game's lore while we're playing the game, but all you need to know is that yes, this is somewhat convenient and interesting how this whole thing kind of goes through. So you're kind of curious now on this bizarre looking art style that they designed for Shop Till You Drop Dead, and what's interesting about it, so the artwork for the cover you're watching here, it actually reminds me of how they designed the first event update, which was the That's No Easter Bunny. It has that same kind of style, so I think that was intentional. And there's another reason why for it, and I'll explain more in the game's detail. But what's interesting about this, though, is the fact that now, I mentioned with Craig White being the one who made this cover art. What's interesting about that was the previous guy, Mark, who was in charge of the Give Yourself Goosebumps stuff. He was still commissioned to design cover art for it, which was the design dummies you see previously. And this was Mark's first book, and from there on, all the books were commissioned by him, or he was the one designing all this stuff here. And what's interesting about this too is there is a reference with this story in media, more specifically in the Goosebumps the game. No, I mean, you're gonna have to hear this come up a lot. But there are enemies in the game called living mannequins, and these are the enemies in this mall. Also, Slappy mentions the name of the mall in the television, and ironically enough, there is a trophy that you can win called Shop Till You Drop Dead, which is you earn it when you find a way into the mall. So it's very intriguing how they kind of design all this stuff. Anyways, more or less me designing it, and this is a very unique opportunity for me. So, attention shoppers, a strange new mall has opened up for business in HorrorTown, just in time for the holidays. Will Courtney and Lucy get the kids together to save Christmas? Find out and Shop Till You Drop Dead. A sneak peek. One new character, Reggie Mayfield. 15 new items to collect and craft, like the Wear Teddies, Heart Attack backpacks, and the Shop Till You Drop Hypnotizer. 10 new animations like making a Snow Angels, Jingle Bell Rock, Make It Rain, and more. 10 new buildings and decorations like the inflatable Blastoape, the abandoned gingerbread house, and the mysterious Make a Monster store. That's a very interesting way of how they designed this whole idea, and I'm very intrigued to basically share with you what I've been hiding for a few months now, which I'm finally happy I got to reveal what this is, because I got to finally have a bit of myself in this game, and kinda. Like, I'm not in the game specifically, but I had a helping hand with it, and it's a very surreal experience, and it's going to be something I'm going to enjoy. Hopefully. Now, one interesting thing I will note is that before the update went live, I actually got access to a special build. And the special build is mainly made for development team and for their QA testers, quality assurance testers, in which this allows them to basically play around with the game, add stuff, and be able to kind of update all the stuff there for you. So I already know the content that's going to be updated, mostly. I know how it's going to look, I know how all the things are going to act, and I know how the story is going to lead into. And I even know what is going to be required for the grand prize, which I've helped design. But what I don't know fully is that there's 2 items in particular that did not have, when I got the build, had a way to obtain them. And there is this weird thing off to the side, which I have no idea what that's there for. But I am curious to see what this leads into and what exactly is going to end up happening. But at the time, this will be intriguing to find out what is going to be with this update. And yes, this will be fun. I can't wait to share with you all the spoils and some of the Easter eggs within this update, and I will make mention of them during the playthrough. So if you're interested and curious about it, then please let me know down below. I'd love to hear your feedback. Until then, I think that'll be it for me now. I'll be seeing you in part 1 to this content update. I will also make a mention real quick that the next part will be an update 1, as well as the crafting 101. However, I won't be able to do part 2 or part 3 or, the other parts until the update's fully finished, because I tend to like to have everything be packed into one type of deal. So what'll end up happening is that I'll be doing this type of stuff and then going into the squeezers while we wait for more updates. I know it's very, very weird convenience. It's very bizarre the way this whole this thing is going to be marked. It's going to be weirdly not make sense chronologically, but screw it. This is how I'm going to be doing it. Dang it. The other thing, too, I would like to also mention is that I am going to try to upload all the other content, make the videos like I did with the previous stuff, like the Shock, the Professor Shock and all that, all the characters that I didn't get a chance to record fully. And what I will tell you is that the part 10 to the Slappy thing, I can confirm now, there's going to be 3 more parts to that playthrough story. And then after that, it is going to go into all the other characters on their own video. The Let's Play is going to cover 3 of the stories. One of them is what we're continuing on, which is the Graveyard Ghouls. The second one's going to be that of the Ghost Next Door, which has Sharon. And last but not least, we're going to end it off with The Mummy Returns. Because, yes, I figured we started with the Mummy, we're going to end with the Mummy. And oh boy, do I have a lot of stuff to talk about with this one. But, yeah, with that, I think that will be it for teasing and all that stuff. I think I kept you here long enough. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited to share with you what I've done. So, let's just hope to see. I'm excited as you are, and I'm hoping everything goes well. Because, again, with what I've seen, things can change. So I already gave him my feedback on it, so now it's just a wait-and-see kind of process. So, yeah, we're going to return to part 1, as well as giving you the 101 to how to get the grand prize, which I think you all are going to enjoy. But, yeah, blah, 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 you get the idea. Thanks for watching. Click like to subscribe, all that jazz, comments, all that good stuff that YouTube likes. Anyways, I've been Grim, that's been it. I am now tired, and I'm going to rest now, because the holiday shopping season is going to be awful.